And welcome to the One More Thing podcast. Today I am joined with Dr. Troy Doucet. How you doing?
Man, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yes.
This is like your favorite day of the year, isn't it?
Dude, this is my go-to day, man.
Yeah.
I live for this day.
So what do you got planned?
Man, I'm going to this crazy guy's house tonight named Ricardo, and I'm dressing up as the Tiger King, Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic
and
himself.
my wife is going to be a tiger. So,
Okay. Very cool.
This is like 2 years in a row, man. Like I've had the sort of white guy, crazy, outlandish outfit. Last year was Macho Man Randy Savage.
I like how you used choice words there.
Yeah, I had
you
to
were
be
very
careful.
careful.
I had to be careful. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we are looking forward to it. I too love Halloween. It is second to Christmas for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into it, man.
Let's go, man.
One more thing.
It was a great weekend.
It was a great weekend. How did you feel like everything went?
I thought it was good, man. I thought, this series, when Dr. Bachman had come up with it, it immediately caught my attention. I was like, yeah, this is going to be really good. And then when I saw the teaching outline, he kind of plugs me in where he feels, my teaching giftings are best suited. And this was one that was a challenge because time is difficult, man. Because it's so much, there's so much information about time management out there, but this was not what it was about, how to put your notifications on to be reminded of things. It was a reminder that you don't have to try so hard to please God. And work is obviously a necessary element of our life, but so is rest.
Yeah.
And so is a type of rest that sort of goes beyond just the Netflix and chill or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, this one definitely spoke to me a couple of times. I'm one of those people that I find a lot of guilt in myself when I'm resting.
Mm-hmm.
There's something you can be doing.
Yep.
Because outside of, being a part of the church organization, I have a clothing line that I run as well.
Yep.
And that's something that I do on my own. So it's always something that there's always something to do. And so I have a lot of guilt when I'm just resting and watching TV.
You feel idle, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I struggle with it.
Yeah.
So this one spoke to me.
Good, man.
For sure. But I'm so knee deep into that world of the entrepreneurial podcasts and the workout podcasts and influencers and them telling you got to grind 24/7 and all that kind of stuff. And I've left that camp. I understand the things that are important. Yes, you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Those things don't just happen. I always joke around with the guys that are like, oh yeah, I worked 14 hours today, 7 days this week. I haven't had a day off in a month. And I'm like, they're almost wearing it as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
And I think that's part cultural here in America. We idolize, like you said, we idolize work.
Yep.
We idolize the grind and the hustle. But I always now I used to look up to that and be like, wow, I wish I had the stamina to do that, to work 14 hours a day and grind and grind and grind. And now I just look at that guy and I say, I feel bad for you.
Yep.
And to relate it to what you would understand too, just like the gym world, the guy that comes up to you and is like, yeah, Troy, I spent 3 hours in the gym today.
Yeah.
I'm like,
why?
What are you doing?
Yeah, man.
For 3 hours? Are you taking 30-minute breaks in between sets?
Yeah.
I'm in and out in an hour.
That's right. That's right.
45 minutes to an hour. There's this efficiency, and I correlate that same thing to work as well.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to put in the work, for sure. There's things that need to be done, especially if you own your own business. But you also have to value your time.
Yeah.
And especially once I became a dad, that became so much more important to me. Mm-hmm. Because you look at guys that you're like, oh man, I look at Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or, name any other, Jeff Bezos. Those guys, yes, they built an amazing company and they're affecting the world in a very positive way.
Mm-hmm.
But what have they sacrificed to do that? And you look at all those guys. And
Elon's daughter hates him, changed her last name.
That's what I'm saying. So you're sacrificing things that should be very important to you.
Yeah.
And
I think you hit on something, though, man, that I mentioned briefly, and I talked a little bit about it. But, life, I've written a lot about time in an academic, intellectual sort of setting. And so that kind of inframed what my thought process was, looking at the idea of rest. and how it correlates to time as existence. But the idea of seconds and seasons, right? So like when you just mentioned, like I think we idolize work because of work, what it brings, right? Like the profits and the materialism and
the ideal, this life that we think, once I attain this goal.
The IG lifestyle, right? Like,
exactly.
Here's my Ferrari, whatever. And those things aren't in and of themselves bad. I'll never own one, even if I had the financial capacity to, because I want to be more efficient with the money. But like the Marines, not the Marines, but the Navy SEALs, man, they have to learn how to utilize seconds in order to get rest. Like they teach themselves through strenuous activity how to make the most out of 8 minutes. You know, like their body convulses in 8 minutes while they're resting. If you ever watch these videos, it's something to see. But yet that 8 minutes has rejuvenated them. Right. And so I didn't want to harp on the idea or give any sort of prescription of this is how much time you should take to rest. That's that seconds piece, man. Like I know with my kids as an example, when they come over, I have X amount of hours, which I wish I had days or weeks with them. But I have to compress so much time to give love and attention to each one and just do the dad thing so that when they leave, that has to sustain them for a while. And that's why I'm not going to beat up a guy or a woman who's like, this is my job. Like I have to grind in order to just make ends meet or whatever. And so I only have seconds, but I use the most. Like that's what I'm trying to get at is
Well, I think like you said, like there's this efficiency of your time that is really important, because if you are spending say 14 hours a day, are you really working those 14 hours? Or same with the gym. Are you really working out for those 3 hours at the gym? No, you're talking, you're gabbing, you're taking long rests. In between sets. So you're not being efficient with your time.
That's right.
And then there's also the priority of not only just taking care of yourself, but taking care of your relationships. Taking care of your relationship and investing with your wife. And that doesn't mean like, oh, go and do all these like crazy activities and run yourself ragged. Like this weekend, for example, Laura and I were we were like, oh, we need a date night. Let's, do something. So we dropped the girls off at my mom's and we're like trying to figure out what we were going to do. And I was like, what sounds really nice? Let's take a couple of beach chairs. We're going to go out to the beach and watch the sunset, have some sandwiches and just relax. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
We went out there. We made it just in time for sunset. We ate some sandwiches. We had some cookies. And we just sat there and we laid our lawn chairs back and we just looked up at the stars once the sun went down. And we just talked.
Sounds amazing.
And so we were resting and talking and investing in our relationship as well. And those things, those are what's most important, at least for me. Understanding like my investment in my kids is what's most important than any business that I built, any church organization that I'm a part of. My kids are first. And my relationship with my wife is just right there with it. Those things are important, but it's one of those things, like I said, I struggle with, because it's like there's only so many hours in a day. And I'm like, I need to get these things done, but I also need to rest, and I also need to make sure my kids know, like, Daddy you are number one in Daddy's book, no matter what. So it is a balance. It is about balance, because you have to earn your rest. You can't just rest all the time.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So there's this idea of like, another example. I started, my oldest daughter, Layton, is 9 or about to be 9 in November. And so, I've started to like see some patterns in her that I'm just like, I really need to teach her hard work. And I learned that not necessarily through direct lessons from my parents, but just watching them. Both of my parents are very hard workers, and they just instilled that through me, just from me seeing them do that. And so starting to work with Layton on doing hard things. And so I took her to the celery fields hill, and I was like, we're gonna go up the steep part, and we're gonna do that a few times. And so at first we walk it. She gets an idea of like what it's going to be like. And she's like, I don't want to do this, Daddy. And I'm like, I know you don't want to, but we're going to try it. And so the first time she does it, she's like, oh, okay. All right, I can do this. So then we run down. And then each time we go a little faster. And I told her, like, well, as we're getting to the top, your legs are going to start hurting. It's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But once you get to the top and you're done, you're like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she was like, oh, it hurts, Daddy. You know, my legs are hurting. And I'm like, I know, baby, just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And she does it, and she gets to the top, and she was like,
boom.
wow. And she just had this high. So like I said, there is that value of putting in the work and almost earning, like that idea of earning your rest, like you said. So it's like, it's this very difficult balance for me, and I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best. But this sermon really spoke to me. I needed it. I needed to be reminded of it, because I'm inundated with work, hard work,
That's
grind 24/7. If you're just sitting there, you're not making money, you're not doing the things that you need to be doing. And those things are important as well.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate the reminder myself.
Dude,
man.
that hit the nail on the head for me, you know, and there's, you know, the other side was obviously we had that practical aspect of our life, you know, work-life balance. And the big thing I really wanted to try to nudge in there was the notion of that spiritual side. Right. When Jesus says, come to me, you people who are weary and heavy burden. And to show why. Like when we talk about, like, we have practical reasons why I'm worn out and why I feel the pressure of work. Because, I mean, I got a freaking mortgage. I got to pay car notes. I got to pay insurance, right? I got to pay child support. Like, that weighs on you, man. But the spiritual side to that is I wanted people to take a look at when we talk about our spiritual life, our religious walk, right? Our devotion to God. Like, what are the things about that make us weary? And that's where it got a bit controversial, right? The idea of, like, living a life that I'm worn out, just trying to please this God who is supposedly angry at me for all the bad things I've done, and trying to do that and realizing every day, like, I can't measure up to this law or to this teaching, this doctrine that my community may be imposing upon me, and how that just will wear you out. And I mentioned I had friends who were like, I'll never step foot in a church again, man. Like, I just couldn't measure up. And so why even try? And then the other side of finding rest, not here, but somewhere in the great by and by, you know, heaven, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, that just sucks, dude. Mm-hmm. That just sucks to believe in a God or have an idea of God. Like, that's what is required of me, to just wear myself out trying to please him, knowing that with this particular teaching or understanding of God, he'll never be pleased, which is why he had to come and send his son to die. Like, that just makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
But knowing that there's a God who calls me to rest within something that's already innate and inherited within me.
Right.
Like, that's a more, at least for my idea, that's a more beautiful idea or picture of God.
Yeah.
Like, the rest is not some promise beyond here. The rest is, there's a rest that you can access now.
Yeah.
And I challenged, you know, like, the notion of hell in some of the sermon, at least how it's been traditionally understood. And I think that gave a lot of people pause to think about, what am I doing? You know, because this rest that Troy's talking about, if it's already something that is within me, then I have to start working on myself to find that rest. I don't have to start trying to please God. And that's the idea, man. Work on yourself. Like, you know, you are your greatest investment, because if you don't work on yourself, what can you give to your girls, right?
Exactly.
If I don't work on myself, what can I give to my children? If I can't find rest here now within me in the gifts and the talents that God has given me to put aside to just focus and reflect and remember and be thankful, then yeah, man. So that's a huge question that I ask myself all the time, is not how much more can I do, but really what can I do to learn more, you know, about this rest that is available to me, so I can work on myself. Because sometimes my rest involves reading books, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of my time is spent reading and studying and reflecting. And people give me a hard time when I go to Siesta Beach or Lido Key a lot. You know, they're like, hey, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. What are you doing here? I'm reflecting, man.
Right.
I just read 300 pages of some sort of theological treatise, and now I got to go decompress from this. And
well, they're just jealous.
Yeah, and just thinking about, what that looks like, what rest looks like. And in that moment, I find myself resting, but it's not just this physical rest. It is a spiritual reflection. And I made mention of a Jack Johnson song that I love where he talks about heaven used to be a place in space and not an ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something just rejuvenating. I get fired up again, man, to go and tackle, the next day. Carpe diem, seize this day, but also take the rest that comes with it, man. So, yeah.
I want to jump back to the ideal, what you talked about, like having this ideal, because I think what you were referring to is almost like this distorted view of an ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ideal that you were talking about was almost the ideal that is presented in fundamental Christianity.
Yeah.
Like don't curse, don't drink,
Yeah.
don't do this, don't do that. A laundry list of rules that you have to abide by and follow.
Right.
That can be cumbersome, and I get that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're never, but I do think it is important to have an ideal. But if we can have a healthy ideal,
That's it.
you know what I'm saying? Like that isn't all about the rules, but it's more about like, I just want you to treat people with love.
That's it.
And that's hard sometimes, but it's much easier than like trying to remember all the list of ideal rules. And then you're like, man, if I mess up, I'm spending 100 billion years in hell.
That's right.
And that whole idea is cumbersome.
Yeah.
So, but I love the line that you always say, I'm already always loved.
Yep.
It's no matter what.
Yep.
And so that is a freeing statement. So I think it is important to have an ideal.
It
I
should
think
be.
we have a target that we're aiming for.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a cumbersome ideal in the sense that I have to remember 1,000 rules to make sure that I'm at least moving towards that ideal.
That's right on, man.
But fantastic job this weekend.
Thanks, man.
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it spoke to me. And,
I'm glad, man.
And I needed to hear it. So thank you for what you do and your time of studying and reflection and putting together these amazing talks.
Oh.
Because I don't think people understand how much time, energy, and effort goes into these things.
Yeah.
They don't just come together, Sunday morning
Yeah,
or Saturday
no,
afternoon.
no.
There's a lot of time and energy that goes into that. So I'm thankful for you guys and everything that you do. So what do we got this coming weekend?
This weekend, I'm not sure. We're still on notifications on,
Okay.
but we have a few different topics that we're looking at.
Okay.
And so I'm going to meet with Pastor Larry, and you got to show up on Sunday. It'll be another good one, I'm sure, whoever's teaching. So.
And then I'm going to also use this opportunity to plug Encore this Wednesday.
Yeah, man.
7:00. I believe the taco truck is going to be there at 5.
5
So
o'clock.
come out, get some dinner, amazing
Dude.
tacos, and then come listen to music. It's about an hour of music. They're always special. I mean, you're in the audience, like
Oh, yeah, dude.
they're always an amazing night.
It's going to be on.
We got almost all the band members going to be on stage, and it's going to be a good night. So please don't miss it.
And it's a great time to bring someone with you.
Exactly.
Because there's no sort of attempt at like indoctrination. This is just good music, good fellowship, good food, man, and a place to maybe some of those weary and heavy laden people who have walked away from church. Bring them with you. This is a good time to just like reintroduce them to what a real church that has a healthy ideal of God is all about, man.
Love it, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks.